Hey guys, Alex from BoardGameCo here, and this is another viewer-selected video, more specifically 5 tips or 5 pieces of advice I would give you and I give myself that I don't follow myself. Now, more specifically, if you've been watching my videos, if you've been watching my stuff, you know I'm very heavily focused on the logic aspect of everything. The logical aspect of, does a game hold its value? What games should you have in your collection? Are you hoarding games when you should be playing them? Assuming playing them is your goal. If you like collecting, that's totally cool. But I'm more into that aspect of trying to be as precise and cold and factual, rather than just like, I want to keep it because I like it, or I want to back it because it looks cool. I try to focus on the logical aspect. So here specifically are 5 tips that I don't follow myself. Now, the first 4 are selectively here and there I don't follow, and the last one I barely ever follow, but I should. I just don't, unfortunately. Now, before we get into that, let's just talk about the schedule for the week. This video will be, obviously, today, and then tomorrow we're probably going to have a monumental Kickstarter review. It's either going to be tomorrow or the next day, depending on, how the launch shows up and whatnot. And then from there, later in the week, I'll be doing an actual review of Monumental. That was the second option, second highest rated from the poll, and I do want to cover it because of the Kickstarter. I probably shouldn't have put it in the poll, because I probably should have been doing a review either way. And then later in the week, we'll have Bristol 1350 at some point, and we'll just see. It's going to be a busy week just like every other week, and hopefully every other week coming forward. With that being said, or if you just skipped here from the timestamp, hi, good to see you. And let's start off with tip number 1. Never get games that you can't feasibly play given your own constraints. Now let's be more specific about that. This is something that I talked a lot about in my problem with epic campaign games and Gloomhaven and whatnot. But whatever your own constraints are, don't get games that violate those constraints. Now, those constraints might be time. Those constraints might be the player counts you have. I would say in my case, it's primarily time. I'm usually pretty good about player counts. What I mean by that is, for instance, Captain Sonar is a game that I would love to get. I would love to play. It looks amazing. But we never have 8 people at the table, so I don't get it. Blood in the Clock Tower was an incredible looking game that I Kickstarted that I passed on because we didn't have the play size group, the group that had the play size that we would ever get it to the table. So with aspect of players, I tend to be good at it. Rather, with the aspect of time, I do not. Unfortunately, for some reason, I have City of Kings because some jerk in the comments on one of my other videos said, well, you should really give that a try, and now I own City of Kings. I already own Gloomhaven. I already own 7th Continent. I have a million Kickstarters coming that are massive, ridiculous campaign games. Why in the world do I need to get City of Kings? Why in the world do I need to have Gloomhaven? I mean, Gloomhaven's a video I just covered in my last video about games that haven't seen the table in a long time, and Gloomhaven is one of them because I don't actually have any immediate plans to play it. So why do I own it? Why do I own multiple epic campaign games that I know I can't play them all? I'm not saying I should never get them. I'm not saying I shouldn't at any point ever get these games, but why don't I just pick one at a time? Why do I have games that I will not reasonably play within the constraints that are my life? And that is tip number 1 of things I don't follow. Now, this is a good time to tangent into, like, the whole point of this list is you can be logical, you can be very focused, you can have rules set up, and you can still have fun. You can still break those rules in this hobby. You can still enjoy whatever it is you want to enjoy. If you never have rules, then you just have whatever. I mean, don't get me wrong. If it works for you, it works for you. For myself, I like to have rules. And for myself, I'm happy to break the rules when I choose to, because it's always a balance of being rational and being emotional. And listen, I like board games. I want Gloomhaven. I want City of Kings. Thank you again to whoever you are. By the way, I apologize for forgetting your name. There were a bunch of people who recommended City of Kings, so I got it. Started reading the rulebook, in the middle of the rulebook. Thanks a lot. Anyways, tip number 2, never back a game that you wouldn't buy. Now, initially I wrote this down as never back a game that doesn't hold its value, but I changed it because it depends on what your own goals are. It depends on what your own priorities are. So I rephrased it to never back a game you wouldn't buy. What I mean by that specifically is, very often on Kickstarter, because of the hype, because of the fun, because of all the shiny, we make emotional decisions about what games we're willing to get for ourselves, that if we were facing that same price point in a store, if we were facing that same price point on Board Game Geek Marketplace or wherever it was, we wouldn't do it. We'd be like, that's insane. I'm not doing that. I'm not paying nearly $100 for a whole bunch of monikers cards. That's insane. Who cares how much I like monikers? Why in the world would I go all in on their Kickstarter? That's insanity. It makes no sense. Or Enchanters Overlords, which is another game that, I mean, the amount of content in this box, this is like a lot of money for a game that is fairly light and doesn't see play anywhere near enough to actually justify what I'm doing here. It makes no sense, and faced with that decision in a store, I would never do it. I would never in any way back those games. The other game, I can't remember offhand, but there's another game that I commented on one of my Kickstarters that I was backing it even though I didn't think the value proposition was there. Why? Why am I doing that? If I wouldn't buy it, if I wouldn't pay for that in a store, why does the fact that it's on Kickstarter with fewer reviews, with the fact that my money's gonna be locked up for months or years, why, when you throw all these things that make it worse into the equation, well, now I'm all in. In a store when I can have it home with me, well, no, now I'm gonna be like, no, that's just not worth it. But if I can have it in a year and tie up my money and, not even know if it's very good, well, suddenly I'm all into that. It makes no sense, but we do it. We all do it. Fortunately, I would say in this case, this rule I mostly keep to. I mostly don't back games I wouldn't buy. But there are exceptions, and so sadly, this is definitely a rule that I break. This is definitely a rule that I occasionally and reluctantly and very often regretfully, although I would say with monikers, I have no regrets. Monikers is freaking awesome. With Enchanters Overlords, I think I went all in on a game that I played a few times and enjoyed. I still own it, but I don't know if I will own it forever. This is a game that might go away, unfortunately. Anyways, tip number 3, never let shiny and pretty get in the way of getting rid of a game. It's exactly what it sounds like. When a game has production values to the top, when a game is incredibly well produced, when a game just has, whether it's miniatures, whether it's art, whether it's the box, whatever it is about a game, if a game isn't good enough to stand on its own merits, get rid of it. A game should not be kept just because it has aspects of the game that make it more attractive than another game. Gameplay is king. I mean, we're playing games, we're not collecting them. Again, if you're collecting them, by all means, do what you want. But if we're here to play a game, shouldn't gameplay matter more than anything else? Why would you let shiny and pretty get in the way of getting rid of a game? Now, very notably, this happened to me with Dice Throne Season 2. Dice Throne Season 2 was a game that I enjoyed, I liked it, but I didn't like it enough to keep on its own merits. But it definitely lasted far longer than it should have in my collection because it was one of the most beautifully produced games I owned. I got rid of it eventually. Fortunately, self-control took in. Or take Monumental, which I just mentioned, we're doing a Kickstarter for, and I didn't do a review video on. Monumental is definitely a game that, if not for the incredible production value, if not for the incredible miniatures, I have a feeling it would go away. It's not going away for right now, spoiler to my review or whatnot. I plan on waiting for the Kickstarter, possibly backing and seeing what happens and possibly getting it. Again, keep an eye out for the review, I'll go more into detail. But I would be lying if I didn't admit that the production value is certainly giving me room to look for justifications to keep it. It doesn't mean I am just keeping it for the minis, not in the slightest. But I am looking for more excuses to give it another shot, more excuses to give it another chance, more excuses to say, well, let's see, it's good, but is it great? It is definitely a game that the shininess and prettiness factor and the amazing art, the amazing miniatures, it's definitely a game that my opinion is being swayed by those things. Now, to be clear, I don't keep games that are bad if the production quality is good. That's easy enough for me. But I certainly keep games that are good when I really need them to be great. And that is a problem, and that is another rule that I'm breaking. I've broken it with Dice Throne, I'm breaking it with Monumental. I'm sure if I went through my shelves, I would find a few more that I am probably breaking it for. I mean, Joan of Arc right behind me, while I am trying to get rid of it right now, it's certainly a game that, I mean, that dragon is freaking cool, man. Like, for a while, I was like, I gotta like this game, because if I don't, I have to get rid of the dragon. And that is one of the most amazing minis, although mini stretches the word a bit. That is one of the most amazing minis I've ever seen. And if I don't like the game, I have to get rid of it. So, again, it's definitely a game where my opinion has been swayed by that aspect. Rule number 4 that I break is never get board games that won't get play tested in a reasonable time frame. Now, what I mean by that, I use the word play tested, but what I really mean by that is whenever we get a game that we haven't played, we're effectively signing up for a decision of, will we like it, will we not, when will it hit the table, will it hit the table sooner than games I own and like, will it hit the table sooner than my other friend's games who he's bringing game night, will it hit the table sooner than all those other unplayed games I own that aren't hitting the table. Why would you ever get a game that doesn't have a reasonable chance of being played in the next 3 months, let's say? Have you ever gotten a bunch of games and then sat there and understood and realized that they probably won't hit the table for at least 6 months, at least 9 months? I mean, think about the last time you got a box full of unplayed games. You get, whatever, 5, 10, 15 unplayed games in one shot. Did you really think you're going to play them all in the next 3 months? In addition to, again, the games you like, the games your friends want to bring to the table? Because if you didn't, why are you getting them? I mean, over here, just to give an example, I could have found a lot more. I have Monsterlands, Robinson Crusoe, Heroes of Stalingrad. By the way, that's another one I have to blame you guys for. But anyways, these are all games that I don't know when they'll hit the table next. Monsterlands and Robinson Crusoe, I have a lot of other games that in that genre I want to play first. Monsterlands, it looks cool, but I just, again, it doesn't really pull me. There's so many other unplayed games I want to get to the table first. Heroes of Stalingrad, I just don't know, because I got this doing lockdown, doing pandemic. And because this is not the kind of game my wife would play, the normal people I would play this kind of 2-player game with, they're just not here. I don't know when I'm going to play it. I don't know at all when I'm going to play it. I currently have something like 60 plus unplayed games right now, games that need to hit the table. If I played 2 a week, it would still take me 30 weeks to get through that pile. Why am I allowing myself to build up a backlog of games that won't hit the table? Now, this rule, to be clear, this is not a rule that applies to Kickstarter. When you're talking about a game where getting it now, I can get it for price X, and getting it later, I'll have to pay more than price X, that's a different conversation. I'm totally cool with that. But you can't extend that logic to every single game with the, well, maybe it'll go out of print. Maybe next month it'll be gone. Maybe next month it'll be so hard to get and I'll have to pay 3 times. Congratulations. You can't say that for 60 games that you have that you want to get to the table. So for me, I believe firmly that you should only have enough unplayed games. You should only have unplayed games that have a reasonable chance of hitting the table in the next 3 months. And yet I break that rule all the time. I do keep to it a lot. You'd be surprised at how many games. Just today I was looking at Near and Far, which has never really been on my radar, and I was like, I should get that. And I was like, you know what? No, I can hold off. I can push off. I'll still get it later. I put it on my wish list. I'll get it later. I'll try it out later. But there are so many games that I do hold off on getting because I know that the backlog of unplayed games is there. But there are so many I don't. There are so many I sit there and say, you know what? It looks shiny, it looks pretty, I'll get it. Who cares that it's facing a backlog of other unplayed games? And who cares that I know it won't hit the table anytime soon? I just want to own that game. And finally, number 5, and number 5 is specifically the one that I would say I break the rule most often, meaning this is one where I would argue the first 4, I periodically break my rule, but often I keep it. Versus this 5th one, I would argue the reverse. I don't think I ever keep this rule, and you should 100% keep it. If your goal is a lean collection, if your goal is making logical choices, you should always keep this rule, and I never do. And that is never get expansions for games until you feel you need them. Never get expansions for games until you feel you need them. So what do I mean by that? So let's start with the baseline. Look at this giant stack of Too Many Bones, and I want to be clear, the giant big box is off the corner over there. This is just the expansions and whatnot. Or in the case of Seven Wonders, where I finally played Seven Wonders Cities for the first time 2 weeks ago. I have owned that expansion for 7 years. I think, maybe it's 8 years. 7 years sounds better. But anyways, I regularly will get all in. I will go all in once I like a game. Not before I like a game. I'm not that bad. The person, by the way, who buys 7 Wonders and all expansions before they've even played it, that person's even worse. Rationally, not actually a human being. But in terms of myself, as soon as I decide to like a game, I am all in. I want every single expansion. Fortunately, I'm not a promo hunter, so at least I have that in my favor. I don't feel the need to hunt all the promos down. But all the expansions, I want them right away. Even though I know most of the time that I have no intention of playing those expansions for quite some time. Seven Wonders has been a game that I have enjoyed. Seven Wonders, I've enjoyed Leaders, and I have felt the need to add nothing else for a long, long time. And yet I owned the expansions for them for years before I played them. Too Many Bones, the amount of content I have in Too Many Bones, it just baffles the imagination. Concordia right behind me, over here. This is a game I just talked about how I don't play it enough, and yet I have 6 different maps in that box. I barely played enough to need the 1 map. Why do I need 6 different maps for that box? And the answer is because once I like a game, I go all in. Now again, to be clear, it's not breaking the rule when it makes sense. So if you're looking at a Kickstarter where going all in is going to be cheaper now, Nemesis is a great example. Going all in on Nemesis now versus buying the base and trying to hunt down those expansions later, that will be more expensive. So that's a rational choice. When you're doing it because it makes sense, that is a rational decision. When you're doing it because, that's less rational. So that is a rule I break all the time. It is a leeway I give myself in this hobby. The others, like I said, the others are rules that I break I try not to. I try to hold on to it, but I break those rules. Number 5 is a leeway I give myself in this hobby. I love board games, and if I like a board game, I will get every single expansion for that board game. Terraforming Mars right here is another game where I own, oh my gosh, this thing is jam-packed. By the way, Terraforming Mars Big Box coming next week. Subscribe down below so you can be up to date on all our Kickstarter coverage. In any case, Terraforming Mars is another game that I play Terraforming Mars, and I play Terraforming Mars Prelude, and I think I play Hellas and Elysium, the board. I own every other expansion. They're all in this box. Colonies in the box, Venus Next in this box. What else is there? There's one more. The newest one that came with the player trades, whatever it was. They're all in this box. But the only ones I've actually played are the extra board plus Prelude. Everything else, don't feel the need to play, don't know when I'll pull it out. I simply don't care. I have more than enough of content for this game, thoroughly enjoying it. By the way, great solo game. I finally gave it a try a few weeks ago for the first time. In terms of solo, I've been playing it a few times, really enjoying it. I held off in it a long time as a solo game. I usually think of games as solo or not solo. I usually don't cross that, or I should rephrase that. Solo co-op or not solo co-op. It's rare that I actually find that I like a game competitively and solo, but this one I definitely do. But in any case, yeah, back to that expansion thing. It's a leeway I grant myself because I want to have fun in this hobby, and I am fine being rational most of the time, and I will be irrational here and there to have fun. I hope you enjoyed this video. Like I said, this week's gonna be jam-packed. Tomorrow Monumental, later in the week Monumental review, later in the week Bristol 1350 review. I don't know what else is coming this week, but I'm sure there'll be more. At some point in one of these videos, there'll be another poll to have you guys pick another video, but only when there's actually a choice to make, because I'm definitely covering the Monumental Kickstarter tomorrow. Until next time, yeah, you can like down below, like whatever, all that stuff. Like here, comment, subscribe. Keep hitting that subscribe button. I really appreciate it. If you like these videos, if you like this content, if you have any opinions you want to add, both on whatever, the video you just watched, any videos you want me to do next, what kind of things you like about this channel, what kind of things you'd like to see differently, be a part of the conversation. I really appreciate having you guys here. And until next time, I will see you.